Okay, am I audible, sir? Yeah. Good morning, everybody. On behalf of Tax Friends Mumbai, Tax Practitioner Association of Thane, Income Tax Bar Association Varanasi, Income Tax Bar Association Prayagraj, and Bhiwandi Tax Practitioner Association, I welcome all the participants to this webinar. Friends, first of all, let me personally thank Vijay Bhai for this initiative because it is keeping us really occupied during these hard lockdown days, and we are at the same time refreshing our knowledge. Today's topic is this highly discussed, debated, and legally disputed topic of the issue of refunds. As you are all aware, obtaining refunds, whether rightfully or wrongfully, due from the government is like taking out something from the lion's mouth. So today we have amongst us one of our legal luminaries, Advocate Deepak Bapat, to guide us through this, this really complicated issue of refunds. He shall be elaborating on all the sections of refunds relating, namely sections 54 to 58 of CGST and the relevant rules. Let me just give you a short and a brief introduction of Deepak Bhai Bapat. Deepak Bhai Bapat is an advocate since 1981. He is exclusively practicing on sales tax up to Tribunal and High Court. He has been the president of the Sales Tax Tribunal Bar Association for 2 years and also the president of STPM, now GSTPM, for 2 consecutive years of 2007, 8 and 8, 9. He has been the vice president of Association of Tax Lawyers for 2 years. He has presented various papers on sales tax, MVAT, and its allied laws at various seminars, which actually I have been fortunate to attend. He is a regular contributor by way of articles in GST Review, which is published by GSTPM. He's one of the first to write a short publication on the very complicated Works Contract Act when it was actually put into force. And he's also one of the most prominent legal luminaries to be appointed by the Trade and Manufacturers Association. With this short, brief introduction, I hand over the proceedings to Deepak sir. Deepak sir.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thanks, Mr. Ajay. And at the first instance, I thank our friend Mr. Vijay Kevalamani and all the organizing associations, which, as rightly stated by Mr. Ajay Talreja, has put us to read and understand the GST, which is very complicated. And for that purpose also, I thank the organizers. With this brief note, it would be better straightway go to the subject which is allotted for this today's meeting. Friends, you are aware that under the GST law, there is no provision to assess every dealer after the end of the year, maybe during the time varying period which is provided for. And therefore, the story which was started right from the VAT Act, that unless you apply for refund, no one was processing those refunds. Now, by going one step ahead, if we look to the provisions under the GST Act, then whatever the ITC we claim, that remains in your credit ledger, that remains as a decorative piece of legislation. You can see whatever ITC is standing or credited to the respective ledger, but that you can use only for making any payments to be made by you, mainly for output tax liability. That's all. Barring that, if there is more ITC than the output tax liability, barring the cases which are mentioned in section 54 subsection 8 from clauses A to F, I have not come across any other provision whereby this refund is being granted. And therefore, friends, we have to minutely see each and every clauses whereby this refund can be granted to the assessee. The issue is that section 54 to 58 are dealing with the refunds, and IGST Act has referential provision that barring few examples like international tourist or outlets, whatsoever the refund provisions have been made are through the CGST Act, and same sections are there for the SGST Act. So today, unless it is required to mention the provisions of IGST Act or the SGST Act, everywhere we will use the term given under the CGST Act only. With this, friends, if we see section 54, entire section 54, kindly see the bullet number 4 on the present screen in front of you. The analysis of all these provisions makes it clear that refund will be granted only in cases specified in section 54(8), which are reproduced here. Now the first one is A, refund of tax paid on export of goods or services or both. You are aware that the export can be made without payment of tax or with payment of tax. So here at present, this A consists of refund of tax paid on export of goods or services or both. Now you read another or there, or on inputs or input services used in making such exports. So now later on we have to see what will be called as inputs. The second category is there in clause B of subsection 8, refund of unutilized ITC. Under the whole VAT era, we are fully aware and we are confident that whenever there was any excess ITC over the output tax to be paid, we were very much sure that today or tomorrow refund will come. But here, if you look to clause B, whatever the unutilized ITC is lying in your credit ledger, that will be given only to these taxable persons, not to any other one. First one is zero rated supplies without payment of tax. Second one, suppliers covered under inverted duty structure. Now see clause C, refund of tax paid on a supply which is not provided either wholly or partially. This means if anything comes to the first thing comes to my mind is unfructified supply. Means the sale is made, delivery is made, but ultimately, as that was not according to the order given, that's why that supply has been rejected. That is a case of supply which is not provided. Same thing can happen in case of inward side, purchase side, that the purchases are made, but ultimately, suppose on those inward supply, if suppose RCM is payable, then also if the inward supply is not complete, what we call it as unfructified transaction, then this is covered under this. Then D, refund of tax in pursuance of section 77. That we would discuss, of course, little later, but the transaction which someone has treated as interstate transaction and paid tax accordingly, but later on it was turned as otherwise. In that case, whether that can be adjusted against in between, at least the title of this section says refund of tax in pursuance of section 77. Now clause E, the tax and interest, if any, or any other amount paid by the applicant, if he had not passed on the incidence of such tax and interest to any other person. Friends, on this slide, please concentrate first on clause C and E, which is most complicated. Because here we have to see whenever you expect that you need to have a refund of output tax paid or for any other reason, you have to find out from clause C and E whether your case falls into this. Other clauses are very clear, but C and E are in a way of a general nature, and that's why we have to concentrate on C and E first. Now F. The tax or interest borne by such other class of applicants as the government may, on the recommendation of the council, by notification specify. Now this clause, the first thing is the foreign consulates. Therefore, when the government issues notification that in case of the person covered by that notification, tax or interest borne by them, normally on purchase side, whatever the tax they have paid, that can be given to them by way of refund. Though they have the registration or not, that will not make any difference. Of course, the relevant notification issued has to be seen properly. As I said, the complicated clause whereby one can get the refund, I have chosen the first one, that is section 5848C. Refund of tax paid on a supply which is not provided. Till here, we can understand very easily. The supply which is not provided, on that obviously, if the tax is paid by me, I must get the refund. Till here it's okay. But thereafter it is said, either wholly or partially, it's also okay because supply is partially or wholly not made. And for which invoice has not been issued or where a refund voucher has been issued. Now, once the supply is not made, it is clear. And that is why the provision is made for giving me refund back. Then why this condition? That for which invoice has not been issued or where a refund voucher has been issued. The authorities in reality, once they satisfy themselves that this supply is not made, then that after I prove, that must be given to me back as a refund. But unfortunately, this condition is onerous, and that's why we have to see some of the examples to find out whether a particular case of yours covers under this or not. The first one is output tax paid, and as I referred, unfructified sale. Kindly take into account, unfructified sale doesn't mean that the case of goods returned. Unfructified sale in short is this, that I have sold some goods to a party. I have issued the invoice or not, that is a different issue. But the goods are sold, taxes are collected, taxes are paid, goods are delivered to them, or service is also provided to them. But later on, the customer informed to me and found that these goods or supply made to him is not as per the terms and conditions agreed between him and I. The simplest example is, the order given to me is to supply, say, a particular model of a television set. I have supplied, but the television set which he asked for, I supplied something else. According to me, it was a good one, and price-wise there is no difference. But still, customer has a right to say that the supply made is not as per my order, as per my requirement. That's why I am rejecting it. This is not to be called as case of goods return. So the condition of returning it back within 6 months, etc., will not apply to it because the sale is not complete, because it was not supplied as per the terms and conditions. This is a case of unfructified supply. On that ground, we have to see whether and what type of cases will fall in this section 54(8)(c). Another example, 2. For services agreed to be provided, advance payment was received in full. Receipt voucher, not the invoice. for total consideration and GST was issued, consideration and GST was received and showed in GSTR 1 and B, 3B. For some reason, no service was provided. Refund was issued for refund of the entire amount received in advance. As now this is as per the condition given in 54.8C, that for which invoice has not been issued, I have issued refund voucher only. And that's why my case perfectly falls into this. So this refund will be granted to me where I have paid output tax. Now see little complicated below at 3. For services agreed to be provided, situation is same. Some advance payment was received. Invoice was issued for consideration because I was not supposed to issue the invoice. And it was also shown in GSTR 1 and 3. For some reason, no service was provided. Credit note was issued for refund of the entire amount received in advance. Now here, at the cost of repetition, invoice was not supposed to be issued, but I had issued the invoice for the consideration, whatever was received by me. And later on, now the query is whether supplier is entitled to refund of tax paid because the invoice was issued. And he say that subsection says, that clause C says, invoice should not have issued. Now here in short, Commissioner fortunately has taken a rational view, and that's why in the para mentioned in this answer, I need not read that, the concession has been allowed even though the invoice has been issued. You can first of all issue a credit note, adjust it against your future output tax liability. But if it is not possible for you, if there is no much output tax liability in future, then according to Commissioner, according to that circular, you can apply for refund under this clause. Now, situation 4. RCM paid before inward supply is made and supply cancelled. And same thing, RCM paid in excess. As this is a case in short where the supply is not made partially or fully, that may be inward supply in case of RCM, then that refund you can claim under this clause C. Now friends, as far as this query is concerned, we are satisfied that even though the invoice was issued, the Commissioner states that yes, still you can claim the refund. But here, this is a case, take a case where the supply is not provided and therefore you want a refund because the taxes were paid. Only because the section is drafted in such a manner that they accept that the supply is not made, but you have made a mistake of issuing the invoice, and that is why no refund will be granted to you. That is absolutely incorrect. Therefore, in a situation where the amount is huge and you cannot sustain with it to pass a credit note and later on adjust it against future liability, then in that case, what anyone should do? In normal course, we as a legal person, we will straightway say that go to the High Court for claiming that refund. But that should not be done. Why? Because even High Court will not entertain any petition unless you try down below. And that is why the first and foremost thing is that when you are confident that the supply is not made, but the invoice is issued, in that case, first of all, for all the things wherever there is no primary solution available with you, the first and foremost thing what we should do is write by email or by physical communication to your proper officer. As on today, every time we say that proper officer has no power, he is powerless person, or even the commissioners are powerless persons. As far as legality is concerned, I am not accepting that proposition, because we say that GST portal is everything, but that is, I would say, only as a vehicle for administration of the act. Even today, commissioner is the proper person, he is the powerful person. So every communication, whatsoever we want to make, according to us that is legal, must be made to the commissioner concerned. In this case, proper officer being the delegate of the commissioner, he has stepped into the shoes of the commissioner. And that is why, do not think that whenever I write anything or requesting anything to the proper officer, he would accept my request, even though it is according to law or not. We must make an attempt, we must write to him, and thereafter the ball is in its court. But in spite of all this persuasion, if we do not listen to, then and then only one can move to the High Court that look, the case is very clear in a present situation that the supply is not made, still there is no provision to give me back that amount whatever I have paid on the non-effected supply. Then and then only High Court may listen to you, only because the conditions which are not rational, that cannot be put to and that cannot be accepted by any court. And that's why when we convince to the court that this condition, that invoice should not have been issued, is only not followed, the High Court may not tolerate this and you may succeed in such writ petition. Of course, as you know, that when the stake involved is very high. With this, friends, we would move to the next clause, where section 58E, the tax and interest, if any, or any other amount paid by the applicant, if he had not passed on the incidence of such tax and interest to any other person. Prima facie, this is very difficult to understand. In short, it says if you paid some tax and interest and actually it is not payable, this actually covers everything under the entire business world, that the tax and interest, if any, or any other amount paid by the applicant, but the condition is only this, that your transaction is such where you have paid this amount, but according to law, you should not have paid this, but it is paid. So now we want to claim back that refund. But here, that is very rational condition, that if he had not passed on the incidence of such tax and interest to any other person. This is obvious. Suppose there is a transaction where I have collected some tax in excess and that I have paid, but legally that was paid in excess. So that's why I want some refund thereon. But on one side, I may apply for refund, and on the other side, from whom that I have collected, I have not refunded him back. In that case, obviously refund will not be granted to me, and that is why it is stated, provided if he had not passed on the incidence of such tax and interest to any other person. In this case, the officer will insist to you that pass a credit note to pay back that tax to that other person, and then only claim this refund, or I will sanction that refund. But here under the VAT era, what was happening, and that was correctly so. Suppose you issue a credit note for refunding this amount to the, say, customer, but this refund is not received from the department from this reason or the other. And if you issue the credit note, that person will claim it from you, but refund is not received, then you will come in a problem. And that's why what was happening, and that care we can take, that we can request the authorities that this amount, instead of giving me back as a refund, you pay back directly to my customer. And that is why I have given to you the credit note as well as debit note given to me by my customer. This would be a better solution. With this, kindly see this example number 1. Kindly read it. I will wait for that. We want to see whether this case falls into this clause E. This is a case where under GST, because of this, everything is electronic and everything was new for, and even today new because of the portal issues, etc. Or a person like me who is not much conversant with the electronic mechanism. There in this case, what happened, you have seen that the ITC was actually 1 crore 60 lakh rupees, but 1 zero was kept, typed less. And that is why the ITC was claimed at 16 lakh rupees only. As a result, the output tax liability was paid more by rupees 1 crore 44 lakhs. Now what happened? Later on also, that particular registered dealer person kept on paying the tax, and later on he claimed ITC in excess. But still, whatever the ITC he was claiming in the subsequent months, which was claimed lesser in this month by 1 crore 44 lakhs, the output tax which was payable in say next 3-4 months, that cannot absorb this excess is short claim of 1 crore 44 lakh. As a result, 1 crore 44 lakh minus whatever the output tax was payable in the subsequent 3-4 months. Even adjusting that, as on today, the liability was, means the outstanding amount of the short claim was too much. And that is why I want to put a proposition that this short claim of ITC, which was resulted into more payment of output tax, because when ITC was claimed less, output tax was paid more. Whether this will fall into this clause E or not, let us have a you think on it, and at the end in query and answer session, which we may debate on this. But if you ask my opinion, I would say yes, this should be fit into this clause E. Now 2, tax collected and paid at higher rate, though applicable is lower. This can happen, that I have collected, say for example, at say 14%, but actually it was payable say at 12%. In that case, this clause E will of course grant me the refund. Now refund of TDS or TCS deposited in excess or paid under wrong head. For this, the situation is same. This was paid in excess. For this, kindly see the clarification which is given by the commissioner himself. So I need not spend time on this. You can later on also read this, but this is possible. Now this is a provision where casual taxable person or non-resident taxable person, we are aware that when such person takes a registration, which is to be called as temporary registration, he has to pay some advance tax by estimating as per the rules at the time of getting registration. This advance tax he has to adjust later on when he files all his returns against the output tax liability payable by him during the period so long as that registration is live as a casual taxable person. Later on, if any balance remains thereon, then for that, under this clause E, he can apply for the refund. But the condition is that, because of the proviso to Rule 89(1), that before making an application for the balance amount of advance tax paid by him at the time of getting registration, all the returns must have been filed by him till the last one. and then only he can make the application for this. Now friends, see this clause. That tax, if you see this section 77, which is reproduced here. Section 77 says tax wrongfully collected and paid to central government or state government. And there are two subsections to this. Subsection 1. A registered person who has paid the central tax and state tax, or as the case may be, the central tax and union territory tax on a transaction considered by him to be an intra-state supply. So he paid CGST plus SGST, but which is subsequently held to be an interstate supply, shall be refunded the amount of tax so paid in such manner and subject to such conditions as may be prescribed. In reality, why I need that refund? Because when I wrongly paid CGST and SGST, there must be a provision whereby the CGST and SGST paid shall be transferred or modified or amended as if it is interstate supply. That's why that should be treated as IGST paid and should be transferred to the cash ledger or respective ledger as IGST. But here they say shall be refunded the amount of taxes so paid. According to me, it would be wrong, because when the IGST is payable, what I will do by getting this refund? And that's why this is not a correct provision drafted, I can say. For this, kindly go to the subsection 2. This is exactly reverse. Here, the taxable person treated this transaction as interstate supply, but later on, it was treated as local transaction, that is intrastate supply. Now, see the last word of the second line. In such case, shall not be required to pay any interest on the amount of central tax and state tax, or as the case may be, unitary tax need to be payable. But here also, when I have paid IGST, later on, it was held that it is a local transaction, so CGST and SGST are payable. Then in that case, this section says, shall not be required to pay any interest on the amount of central tax and state tax. But when I need not pay, already I have paid IGST. So that should be auto transferred upon my application. Either give me the power to transfer this from this tax to that tax head, or the proper officer upon application may do that, because in this case there is no reason that it should be refunded to me or asking me to pay back. If there is any circular granting this concession, honestly speaking, I am not aware. You may bring to my notice, so accordingly later on I can make a change. But here again, kindly keep in mind, so long as this provision is there, we can take the advantage where in case of transitional credit, if the transitional credit which was claimed by the Tran 1, if that was claimed under wrong head, instead of central tax credit, if it was taken as VAT, or VAT was taken as central tax, excise, etc. In that case, that would be in short, the credit was rightly claimed, but that was not claimed under a particular head of tax. And that case may also fall into this, because though it is a case of transitional credit, so long as the form filed by me was in time, so there is no issue of non-filing of Tran 1. And that's why, because of that short claimed credit, even today, when the excess, say state tax credit was claimed in Tran 1, later on it was proved as different one. What I am consenting in such case and writing to the proper officer, okay, transitional credit which is wrongly made you don't allow and transfer it to another one. And mind well, such things they are not doing as on today. They are only on technical mistakes, that instead of showing in table A, you are shown in table B, or like this. But we have to keep in mind, once the taxes are paid, they are under wrong head, then that may be even the claim of transitional credit. Because ultimately, any credit of any taxes paid, these are nothing but prepaid taxes, and these are paid under wrong head. There must be a facility to adjust, say from CGST to SGST or SGST to IGST, etc. And that's why for such clerical errors, there must be a provision. So I can conclude that this clause is not properly drafted so as to give you the complete justice. With this, friends, I am moving to clause F of section 54.8. Here again, the tax or interest borne by such other class of applicants as the government may, on the recommendation of the council, by notification specify. Friends, in this case, what we have to keep in mind, it is not necessary that to claim the refund of tax or interest borne by the, obviously the language as is given is on inward supply. When I pay something on inward supply, then just a minute. Then in that case, the refund can be granted provided the government issues notification for that behalf, and that is why, and then only I can claim the refund of taxes borne by me. And that's why, kindly see this, in case of retail outlets at international airport, this notification was issued under section 55 of the CGST Act, and that is why retail outlets are in a position to claim the taxes which are paid by them. Details we will see here. Kindly see this Roman 1 into bracket. Retail outlets established in the departure area of an international airport beyond the immigration counters, making tax-free supply of goods against foreign exchange, because they are making the supply to the outgoing international tourists on which they are not supposed to levy any tax because of the section of the IGST Act which is referred here in before. Now, this clause 3, to an outgoing international tourist as a class of persons who shall be entitled to claim refund of applicable GST paid on inward supply of such goods. In normal course, on the sale side, as this one is being treated as export, there is no reason, because the notification itself says, legal provision says that to international tourists, he need not charge any tax. Obviously, his input would lie. That will be as unclaimed or unutilized input. And that is why the provision has been made. Refund of applicable GST paid on inward supply of such goods will be granted to him. And for this, special rules have been made by Rule 95A, under which various conditions have been put into to grant such refund to him. Now kindly see, this is Rule 95A. On inward supply, he can get the make the application for refund. The refund application provided is Form 10B. that form is to be filed monthly or quarterly, depends on the periodicity for his returns, that to be called as tax period. Rule 95A3, what to be attached with this? Self-certified compiled information, not documents, of sales invoices issued along with concerned purchase invoices to be submitted along with the refund application. 95A4 provides following conditions. These conditions I need not go into, because this is nothing but production of original invoice, etc. And the purchase invoice must have put the number of this outlet by supplier. So these are the general conditions for this. So, but these are put into Rule 95A4. As far as actual sanctioning of refund is concerned, this Rule 95A5 provides that the provisions of Rule 92, that is issuing a refund sanction order, all these are governed by Rule 92. Now with this, friends, now the retail outlets are over. We are moving to international tourist. As far as international tourist is concerned, this section 8.1 provides this proviso, which is reproduced over here. Supplies made to international tourists referred to in section 15 is an interstate sale. When he comes here, any sale is made to him, this is to be treated as this interstate sale. Therefore, as per section 5.1, IGST is payable on supply made to international tourist. In short, we can move fast, that international tourist, when he buys something, by making the payment of tax, he is entitled to claim a refund of the taxes paid by him on whatever he purchased, so long as he is falling into the term of this explanation to be called as international tourist. And he will get the refund of whatever he buys with the payment of taxes. But here till today, as far as, if I mistake not, there is no separate rule has been prescribed to grant, how to grant this refund to the international tourist. But the legal provision is very clear that because of this notification, refund will be granted to an international tourist on his inward supply, whatever the taxes he pays. Even all the circulars also states it will be granted. So do not wait for the rules to come, so long as the refund is being granted by way of the circular. Now, refund to foreign consulates, etc. Friends, I feel that these provisions I have reproduced over here, and for this notification under section 55 has been issued. And that is why, instead of going word by word, simply I can say that in case of foreign consulates and all those which are mentioned in this notification, whatever they purchase for their official purposes, and as per the arrangement made between the two nations, etc., on that only they are entitled to claim the refund of whatever there is their input supply, inward supply. And for this purpose, the question comes that during what period they should file an application. This, kindly see this number 5. Application once in every quarter. That is only the wording. And if you go to the main section, that is 54(1), that says 2 years from the relevant date. But as far as the periodicity for filing application is concerned, that transactions of inward supply made by the foreign consulates is there is no limitation. Limitation is only one, that one application for 1 quarter. That is my reading as far as these provisions are concerned. Application once in every quarter within 18 months from the last date of the said quarter. This notification number I have given as far as these are concerned, within 18 months from the last date of the said quarter. Now I am making the application. The provision, it seems that one application, 1 quarter. So if some of the transactions are missed out, then that may be incorporated in the subsequent the application to be filed in next quarter only, because one application in 1 quarter. This is, according to me, can only be said about this, so we can get more time for the subsequent complicated issues. But here for kindly read this point number 7, read this circular whereby all other procedures have been properly provided. Problem होता है. तिकडे ओपन ठेव, म्हणजे मला राईट अप खाली वाचता येईल. With this, friends, we are going to the most complicated topic, that is refund of tax paid on export of goods, services, or both. I have purposely put this or in between because that is there in the bare provision also, but to highlight that this refund is twofold. First one is refund of tax paid on export, and second one is refund of inputs or input services used in making such export. So ITC, whatever they get on their inputs, refund of that also, the provision has been made under this particular clause, which was actually clause A, which I have purposely put at the end. This A and B clause of section 54(8), now we are discussing. First one, we are on A. Now when the export is made with the payment of tax, then kindly see this Roman 1. What you will get? Refund of tax paid on export and refund of tax paid on inputs or input services used in making such export. Refund of tax paid on export, Rule 96 is specifically provided to grant the refund of tax paid on export, because as far as other exports are concerned, which are against LUT, that is with zero tax, and that's why in that case what they get is unutilized ITC. But in this case, as the export is made with taxes, there is a separate Rule 96 prescribed, which prescribes the procedure regarding this refund. Hence it is reproduced over here. Now here in this case, as far as this refund is concerned, firstly, this Rule 96 is provided only to take care of refund in case of goods exported, not for services. For services, that other rule will apply. But here, in case of goods, kindly see this sub-rule 1. The shipping bill filed by an exporter of goods shall be deemed to be an application for refund. Now here, when IGST has been paid on export, I need not make a separate application because the shipping bill file itself will be treated as the application for this refund. Now here, when I will get that refund? If you see this clause A and B, clause A says that export having been made or not has to be certified by this respective person. That you need read carefully. And the second condition is the applicant has furnished a valid return in form GSTR 3 or 3B as the case may be. That is the another condition that is but obvious. Unless I file by return, no output tax liability on export would be reflected, and that's why I am not in a position to claim that refund. Kindly see sub-rule 2. Details of the relevant export invoices in respect of goods contained in form GSTR 1. Now see GSTR 1, we will obviously will have to show these exports. The information about this export made with this payment of tax has to be disclosed at appropriate place in GSTR 1 as well as GSTR 3B. That will be auto-fetched by the custom portal mentioned therein. Now kindly see this sub-rule 3. Upon the receipt of the information regarding the furnishing of a valid return in form GSTR 3, 3B, etc., etc., the proper officer of customs will verify all those things over there. And if he is satisfied that the value and all other details shown in the respective returns, that is GSTR 1 and 3B, if they are auto-fetched, their portal, custom portal also is showing that, then and then only this refund of the tax paid on export of goods will be granted. But here, friends, kindly see the issue which I have given in this sub-rule below sub-rule 3. If invoice details from GST website and custom website do not match, then what will happen? There are cases, I am also witnessing, I am representing them, that the custom, what we popularly call as ice gate, there, because of some technical errors or any other reason, if the custom site website is not showing those details properly, and unless that is matched, no refund will be granted to me, then what should I do? As I said earlier, here also I must make an application to the concerned officer, but in this case, to who is that concerned officer? The law says, as per this rule, that the proper officer of customs, not my regular officer, he cannot grant me the refund of the tax paid on export. That's why I must approach to the officer of customs. One more, I can say a challenge as well as avenue to us. But if we sit on that rule by saying that custom portal is not fetching this, then I would say once you submit all the details of such export made and whatever you have shown in GSTR 1 and 3B to the custom officer concerned, in spite of this, if he is not accepting this and not granting the refund on the ground that both the website details are not matching, then you have no option but only to knock the door of the High Court by way of writ petition. Now, when this refund can be withheld, as usual, the reasons have been given over here, so I need not read out them. These are provided under sub-rule 4, when this refund can be withheld. Prima facie agreeable, but when not to grant that refund, that can be read. So I can go further. Now see 6, this subrule 6. Once this information is matched, then there is obviously no problem. The custom officer will inform this one to the proper officer concerned of central tax or GST to whom the jurisdiction has been given, and that officer will pass the order under part B of form GST RFD 07. As far as the amount which is withheld under clause A of subrule 4 is concerned, that concerned officer shall proceed to refund the amount after passing an order in form GST RFD 06. Now here, kindly see this subrule 8. When the export is made to Bhutan, then in that case, whatever the tax is being paid on export, that will be given, that will be paid to the government of Bhutan, and therefore, on such export which is made to Bhutan, the exporter shall not be paid any refund of the integrated tax. That you have to keep in mind. The subrule 9 says that in case of export of services, application for refund of IGST paid shall be filed in form GST RFD 01 and shall be dealt with in accordance with the provisions of Rule 89. In short, this rule was only for export of goods on which payment of tax was made, and for claiming the refund on services, you have to follow the routine path and you have to file the application RFD 01. Now friends, kindly see this subrule 10. Now this, when the export is made with the payment of tax, the subrule 10 provides the restriction by way of this clause A and B. If you try to read this like me, you will face a very great difficulty. It's very difficult to understand because of the notification numbers mentioned. You can read those later on. But even B, that's why I have later on with great difficulty, when I understood this, I have jotted down below this clause B. What was the purpose to restrict the refund of tax paid on export? Because when the input of the goods or services, of the goods which are exported, which are procured under these notifications which are mentioned in clause A and B. One is under custom and another one is under the GST Act, whereby the goods are purchased or imported under clause B without payment of import duty or at concessional rate of tax. And when the goods are purchased at concessional rate of tax, there is a prohibition under these notifications which are noted over here. When I am buying or procuring those goods under those concessions without payment of custom duty or at concessional custom duty or concessional rate of GST, which are mainly deemed exporters over there, as far as GST concessional levy is concerned, then I am not supposed to make the export with payment of tax. I am supposed to export it with LUT. And therefore, as a restriction, as a penal action, the refund in this case is provided when I am paying the tax on sale side, when I have made the export, that when the procurement is under this notification, then no refund of the, kindly see last one. Therefore, if such such export is made with payment of IGST, then the exporter is not eligible for refund of the tax paid on export. That is, in short, this rule is, but which is very difficult to digest. Then the question comes, if the exporter procure these goods, which are capital goods, from those either from deemed exporters or imported by paying concessional duty, but these are not the goods which are the goods, normal goods, which are used for the purpose of export, but these are the goods which are capital goods under this EPCG scheme at concessional duty and at concessional IGST. What will happen? If you read this rule earlier, 89 4B, etc., the bare rule gives the impression you cannot. That was the earlier position I am telling you. But later on, it was represented to the government that as far as capital goods are concerned, capital goods are being used for the purpose of manufacturing, or these are being used for not only for one export to be made, but for many exports to be made. That's why, even though these are procured at a concessional rate of duty and concessional rate of GST, the refund thereof should be granted. And accordingly, as the representation was accepted, the necessary amendments were made in Rule 4A and 4B. And therefore, as far as capital goods are concerned, purchase which is under this particular scheme, EPCG scheme, under that notification, the refund of tax paid on export will not be denied. The Commissioner has given this clarification in the answer I have given in para 51 of that circular and 52 as well, that you please read later on. Now, in some of the circulars, these issues were raised, and these are clarified as well. That's why I have picked up, obviously, from those circulars. Proof of realization of export proceeds in case of goods should not be insisted upon. As you know, once we file the refund application, the authorities are asking us anything. And that's why I have put this one before you, that whether the export proceed in case of goods has been realized or not, that should not be asked for. That, in short, has been given by the Commissioner. For details, kindly move further. Now, as far as export of services with payment of tax, I have made it clear earlier that as far as the services exported with the payment of tax, the routine path he has to follow for claiming the refund of tax paid on services of export of services. Now here also, even though say in case of services or anywhere, these the matching between the 3B or GSTR 1, etc., all these problems will come, and on these issues these queries are raised. I have noted down, but I don't think I should spend time on this, because one more topic has been left that we cannot cover in the time which is allotted. That's why. Now the another thing is refund of tax paid on deemed export. Who are deemed exporters? Section 147 has made a provision for that. If the government, by issuing a notification, notifies that when the manufacturers, because this is the condition, that the government may, on the recommendation of the council, notify that certain supplies of goods as deemed export, where goods supplied do not leave India and payment for such supplies is received either in Indian rupees or in convertible foreign exchange if such goods are manufactured in India. Therefore, this notification number 48 has been issued for the purpose of section 147 to specify certain supplies of goods as deemed exports. And now the third proviso to Rule 89(1) provide that the application for refund in case of deemed export, because in case of deemed export, in nutshell, what one can say, that the deemed exporter sells these goods to the actual exporter who actually export those goods. And that's why he charged whatever the applicable taxes are. And now the question comes, the taxes which are charged by the deemed exporter to the actual exporter, the refund thereof to be claimed by whom? That's why this proviso, third proviso to Rule 89(1) provides for that refund. Now, who has to file that application? Primarily by the recipient of deemed export supplies has to file that application. If he is not filing, then by the supplier of deemed export supplies. But that also when in cases where the recipient does not avail ITC on such supplies and furnishing an undertaking to the effect that the supplier of deemed export supplies may claim the refund. What will happen? That the deemed exporter is charging tax, maybe at concessional rate. Then if that deemed exporter also will file the application and the tax charged thereon, the actual exporter, because that is his purchase, so he will also claim the ITC thereon. That's why this condition, that both the things are not possible. Now where the application is filed by the recipient, who is actually the exporter, he shall furnish an undertaking stating that refund has been claimed only for those invoices which have been detailed in statement 5B for the tax period for which refund is being claimed, not on any other inward supplies. That he has not availed, that outward one. That the another undertaking is that ITC of the taxes paid to the deemed exporter will not be claimed by him. And that's why the actual exporter can file the application for claiming the tax paid on export of such goods. Now where the recipient, kindly see this clause 2, the recipient shall also declare that the supplier has not claimed refund pertaining to said supplies. That is also the another condition. Now where the application is filed by supplier, he shall furnish. Now here, as I said, now in earlier one, I have bring to your notice that the recipient is filing the application for the taxes paid on export. Now here, where the application is filed by supplier, whatever the taxes he charged on such sales, maybe at the concession, he shall furnish the documentary evidence as specified in this notification, which also includes an undertaking that the recipient shall not claim the refund in respect of such supplies and the recipient shall not avail any ITC on such supplies. Exactly the reverse way. Now friends, now this is the clause which is of very much importance, and that's why I kept that one as the last one. Now, as I stated in the beginning, whatever the ITC is allowable by law to the recipient, in normal course, if that ITC is more than the output tax liability, then under the GST law, there is no provision to claim that ITC by making the application for refund thereof. However, section 54 has a provision, wide subsection 3, that this accumulated ITC, what is we called is unutilized ITC, the refund thereof can only be claimed by these two persons, which are mentioned here in Roman 1 and 2. Zero rated, who makes zero rated supplies without payment of tax. As you know, zero rated supplies means the export and supplies made to SEZ units and SEZ developers are zero rated supplies without payment of tax. When they are made, of course, against LUT, then we have to see what these provisions are. These suppliers are entitled for refund of unutilized ITC, the clause 1 of this section 54(3). Refund of unutilized ITC will not be granted where goods exported are subjected to export duty. That is but obvious. When there are certain goods for which the concessions which are normally granted to the exporter is that no export duty is payable because he earns foreign exchange. But when there are some goods where the export duty is payable on such export, in those cases, refund of unutilized ITC will not be granted to them. Now 3. That refund will not be granted where the supplier of goods or services or both avails of drawback in respect of central tax or claims refund of IGST paid on such supplies. Regarding the above, the circular number 40 has given the clarification. Kindly go through that. I need not read this and spend time on this. Now, kindly see this 5. In respect of supplies to SEZ unit or SEZ developer, second proviso to Rule 89(1) provides that the application for refund shall be filed by supplier of goods when such goods have been admitted in full in the SEZ. In short, this A and B says that may be goods or that may be the supply of services, unless these goods are finally accepted as supplied by the SEZ unit or the SEZ developer, the application for the purpose of refund of this unutilized ITC cannot be entertained, cannot be filed. Now friends, the most crucial part is, now when the person who is zero rated supplier on LUT, when he makes an application, this formula has been provided under Rule 89(4). I need not go in each and every word of this formula, how to calculate, etc., because not only because it is difficult to read in the given time allotted, but the purpose is why this formula is provided. Because unutilized ITC that we can see from the credit ledger, whatever has not been offsetted against any liability, that is unutilized ITC. Whatever I show in my 3B, that gets transferred to the electronic credit ledger, and from that I use it for making some payments, which I accept has to be made by me. Whatever remains, that you grant me as refund, but that is not so. Reason is, suppose that ITC which is accumulated over there, tomorrow it may happen that ITC may not be pertaining to zero rated supply. That's why it cannot be granted to me. Similarly, there may be certain inward supply whereby the tax paid thereon, say example, the best example is that motor car is purchased and I have shown that one in 3B as ITC available to me. That will automatically go to the input credit ledger. But when the question of granting the refund comes, if I claim that, I will be penalized later on if my assessment takes place, or if the officer get a chance to see that I have claimed the ITC by 3B, and that's why it is lying in that ledger, and that I offsetted also later on. And therefore, what we have to keep in mind, that why this formula is provided only to ascertain whatsoever the ITC is pertaining to the making of zero rated supply, that and that only will be granted to me, and that is why this rule has been drafted. Otherwise, there was no reason. Whatever is, as I said, accumulated over there, grant me. On the same lines here, this 89.4a I can skip, you can read that. I will be going here directly to the issues, whatever I have drafted over here. Kindly see this subrule, this point number 10 into bracket. Most of the time, for the reason I put forth before you just now, the question being asked, while granting the refund of unutilized ITC, when it is said that ITC is what? Input tax credit, and therefore I have drafted this query, whether input shall be a part of output for the purpose of availing unutilized input tax credit. The instant answer is yes. I'm sorry, the answer is no. That though it is said as input tax, doesn't mean that the whatever I have purchased must become a part of output. And that's why kindly see the definition of input given in section 259 and 260 in case of goods and services. As far as input on goods is concerned, it means any goods other than capital assets, capital goods, and used or intended to be used by a supplier in the course or furtherance of business. Now, on capital assets, though they are excluded from this, but there is a separate provision made to grant the ITC on capital goods. That's why only it is taken out from this. But if it is to be treated that input must be a part of output, then this terminology after the word or, intended to be used by a supplier in the course or furtherance of business. Then there are many items like printing stationery or anything for running the office is concerned. The input would not have been granted because that is not the part of output, and that's why the terminology is that the input means which is all intended to be used by a supplier in the course or furtherance of business. And that's why even if you see 260 in case of service, the same meaning. And if you see the last one, last bullet over here, as per section 2 into bracket 62, input tax in relation to a registered person means the CGST, SGST, IGST, and UT charge on any supply of goods or services made, and which also includes all this, even RCM. And that's why we get the input credit of tax paid by way of RCM. And lastly, on clause F, it says, but does not include tax paid under composition levy. The purpose to put before you is this, that in subsequent paras, the stand taken by the department is this, that in many cases where the input is not a part of output, they are not granting the ITC, and in some cases commissioner had to intervene and said, no, you cannot do this. So kindly see this bullet after clause F. Above definitions makes it clear that input may not be a part of output supply. Only condition is that it is used or intended to be used for the purpose of business. So friends, what we have to keep in mind while claiming the refund of unutilized ITC, that only where under section 17(5), what we call it as negative list, if any ITC is prohibited, then and then only refund will not be granted to you. Now friends, the another question which I have drafted over here is that's kindly see the 11. Refund of transitional credit can be granted if used for zero rated supply where we are currently at. Now, if the direct answer I had to give, then I would say yes, because transitional credit is why the refund of that transitional credit amount is being credited to the credit ledger, because the ITC which otherwise I will get if those inward supply have been made in GST period, then ITC, if it is allowable, will be granted. Then why there is hesitation in granting refund on transitional credit which is there already in my register? But somehow, kindly see the answer given by the commissioner in this circular. In the second bullet, it is clarified that as the transitional credit pertains to duties and taxes paid under the existing laws, the same cannot be said to have been availed during the relevant period. Because here again see the first line of this particular slide. The formula uses the phrase net ITC and defines the same as ITC availed on inputs and input services during the relevant period. And that's why the commissioner has stated in this circular that this ITC is not availed by me in a period which is falling under GST era. And that is absolutely incorrect clarification given by the commissioner. See the second point in this, it is clarified that as the transitional credit pertains to duties and taxes paid under the existing laws, the same cannot be said to have been availed during the relevant period. Then what for you have provided this is transitional credit? Transitional credit is always of the transactions of inward supply made by say the exporter under the pre-GST era. Then the credit thereof, if the object of the government was that credit, transitional credit is not entitled for ITC to be claimed under GST era, then they would not have provided the this under the head transitional credit. And that's why the answer to this is, at the cost of repetition, that so long as the transitional credit to my account entitles me to claim the ITC as per section 16 and all other relevant provisions to claim the ITC, then transitional ITC is no bar only because it is not availed, as the commissioner is saying. Now this slide, where there are common expenses like printing stationery, maintenance of machinery, and so many. As far as the net ITC term which is used in this formula, it is very clear that that term is used to find out what is the corresponding supply for making this zero rated supply, on which the exporter who has made zero rated supply wants to claim the refund of ITC. That's why one thing is very sure, that the inward supplies may be too many, and my business, suppose, is not to make only say zero rated supply, export of that, but I am doing any other businesses also. So obviously the expenses which are of common nature like printing stationery and so many, those expenses I may use for making a taxable supply as well as non-taxable supply, even non-GST supply, and now in the current case where we are for making a zero rated supply. In that case, straightway, according to me, that as the expenses on printing stationery and tax paid thereon are not actually used in export, that's why that ITC cannot be denied to me. At the most, the proportionate working is required to be made. At the most, I am saying, and that is rational also, that proportionately the corresponding inward purchase supply value has to be counted, and in proportion to the output supply made by me, whatever is attributable to the zero rated supply with payment of tax against LUT, on that the ITC should be granted to me. Now the most crucial issue, matching of ITC claimed with GSTR 2A. As I said, that whenever ITC is to be granted, only because the inward supplies have been shown by me in my GSTR 3B. From there, they are auto transferred to my input tax credit ledger. And only because they are lying there, I cannot straightway get an ITC unless that ITC is allowable to me as per section 16 onwards and with the relevant rules. And that is why here, as I have stated in this point number 14, that unless that is that 36 rule 36(4) has been followed, that cannot be granted to me. And that's why whatever are the points which are against me for not granting the ITC to me, same are applied over here. And that's why there is something special to be said, that what will happen in case of refund when the application is made under this particular provision. And that's why, as far as these provisions are concerned, as the time limit which was granted to me, which is exceeded, now I request the moderator to open this forum for the question and answer session in a whatever the technicalities you follow, whether to unmute all or to the one who are asking the queries. Whatever has not been taken by me till this time. And with this, I request the moderator to do the needful.
Okay. This is Bharat Sachdev.
Yes, sir.
I think so. Hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay, sir. So what we'll do is Advocate Ajay is there on. Ajay, I'll just unmute you. Just a minute.
Yeah.
Ajay ji, you're unmute.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Okay. So what we'll do, sir, Deepak sir.
Yes, yes.
Ajay ji can take the questions from the chats.
Okay.
And
okay.
He can ask the questions, and you can respond to that. Rest all people we will be on mute till that time.
Okay, fine.
Right,
okay.
Ajay ji?
Okay, we'll follow that. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I'll mute myself.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, thank you, Deepak sir, for a long and enlightening lecture on this topic of refunds. Going to the questions now. We have received quite a number of queries actually. I will just go through them one by one.
Okay.
CA Harish Kataria asks as to how can tax be collected and paid without tax invoice in case of unfructified sale?
No, first of all, kindly take into account that unfructified, in case of unfructified sale, the sale was actually already made. The invoice was also issued. However, as the supply was not made by me as per the terms and conditions, I may, as a supplier, I have made two wrong things. Either the supply was not made by me in time, and that's why the purpose of the recipient is not served. And that's why he want to return back those goods to me because I have not complied with the contractual provisions. This is one thing, because in time I
Okay.
have not supplied to him. So the supply is already made, invoice is already issued.
Correct.
That is a case of unfructified supply, which is not a case of goods return. And
Okay.
therefore the refund thereof is provided. That is the issue.
Okay. Next question is from Nitin Kukreja. Please confirm whether extension of due date to 30th June is applicable to refund application for financial year 17-18 bunched for the whole period of 9 months.
Answer is obviously yes, because as far as the whether the particular extension, honestly speaking, I have not gone through those notifications, but assuming that that is not directly granted for making the application for refund, that time is not extended.
Okay.
But the Supreme Court suo motu order very clearly says that in any proceeding and any provision made under any act, if that
Correct.
if the time is falling in those dates which are falling in this corona problem, then
So this automatically covers it. Correct.
yes, it automatically covers.
Okay. Next question is from Mr. Pawan. Our client provides only export services. They have not claimed the ITC as refund for the last 2.5 years. How to claim the same, and as to limitation of 18 months comes into the picture?
Now the question is, as I said, and I will keep on saying further to various queries on this issue, the refund cannot be granted only because that is falling in that particular clause. Because to fall in the term of unutilized ITC, suppose, unless that I am in a position to claim ITC by law. Now, one of the condition is what? Say, take the case of section 16(4), where the purchases, for convenience, I am so that still I am not coming out that language of inward supply, outward supply. When they say inward supply is made in a particular month, but if the return are not filed before the last date prescribed, that is September, for filing the September return or annual return, etc. In your case, for last 2 years, you have not filed your returns, or you have filed the returns, but those particular transactions have not incorporated, shown in 3B. And that is why there is a direct provision made by way of section 16(4) that if no returns are filed, then no ITC, of course.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
No, this is very important issue. That's why that may give the answer for future questions also.
Okay.
When ITC is not claimed as per the rules, that is not shown in a particular return. You have delayed that.
Right.
Whether that is permanently gone.
Yes.
If you read the bare provisions, yes, it is permanently gone. But for this, we have to go to the scheme of the act. What the scheme of the act says, whenever there is inward supply on which taxes are paid, to avoid the cascading effect, ITC shall be provided. Hello?
Yeah. Yeah.
ITC shall be provided subject to terms and conditions. Now the condition is that all those returns must have been filed
Up to date. Yes.
and that also before a particular date. This is the owner's condition, and for that, in a particular case that is challenged by way of writ petition, because wherever the conditions are onerous conditions which are against the scheme of the act, then and then only it can be declared as ultra vires, otherwise not. But by bare reading, some other cases also will come where the ex parte order is passed for not filing your returns.
Correct.
In that case also this issue will come, whether you will get the ITC or not.
Okay, sir. Another query is, can refund applications be made during this lockdown period for the last quarter of financial year 1920 in case of ITC for export of services without payment of any tax?
But basically, why you doubt? Because as far as lockdown is concerned, now from 26th November something, that date I have given, 19, all the applications have to be made electronically.
Correct.
And therefore, the refund application
It can be made, yes.
It can be made if you want to.
It can be made. There is no.
Yes, yes.
Very
no
right.
bar.
Very right. Okay. CS Surendra Sangvi has put a query. SGST payment was wrongly stated in IGST column by staff rupees 10,000. We had applied for refund online. Reply of the application was received by client to confirm bank details, but he responded late. Hence, the application was cancelled by the sales tax officer or other GST officer. We again applied for refund online, and it is pending for processing from the sales tax officer. This is pending since about 1 year. What should we do?
Yes, this already I have answered. Now in the different context, I will answer again. That whenever by law you are entitled to that refund or any claim, but because of this technical hurdle or inaction on the part of the respective officers, if that is not being granted, you have to make all those efforts, write to the officer concerned again and again, and write to the principal commissioners of your area. That may be SGST commissioner, that may be central commissioner. And thereafter only you can, you have no other option, because once the application is to be made electronically, then the writ petition is only the answer.
Okay. Another question from Dipesh Jain. Refund on account of inverted duty structure. While filing 3B for the month of June, the ITC was short claim due to clerical error, which was claimed in 3B of September. But while filing claim of refund of June, actual ITC was claimed, which was also reflecting in 2A for that particular month. But the officer rejected the claim, stating ITC as per 3B is less. Now I'm not able to claim the refund for the said month, as only one application is allowed under the head if refund on account of inverted duty structure is made. How should it be claimed now?
Yes, I would tell you. This is again a case that by law you are entitled, but in 3B, in another 3B you have shown where you were not supposed to actually show, but only the facility is granted. That's why you showed, displayed that ITC in subsequent month.
Correct.
For this, I will share this PowerPoint presentation to the organizers. Later on, you can circulate to this group.
Yes, sir.
I have given the clarification given by the commissioner that in such cases that will be granted. That is rational view taken by the commissioner, but here the main principle is that that earlier under the non-GST era, in case of Sudha soft drink, the decision was given that on a day when you are processing my refund application, at that time it was assessment. Refund application processing is also assessment only, whether your claim is correct or not. At that time, whether those transactions, say particularly in case of say February, were available with you or not, though shown in say September later on. That's why when you are processing the refund application, if those invert transactions are available with you for the purpose of checking, you cannot do that refund. That is the ratio of that judgment.
Okay. There is another query from Anirudh. His question is, can we take ITC credit balance in refund? And my client is under he's a regular assessee and he's providing services of photography.
But I have not understood ITC credit balance in the sense, kindly clarify.
He means to say there must be a credit in his ledger which he wants to take by way of refund.
But there is he has missed he has not filed the refund application for that. What is the hurdle?
That nothing is mentioned in the query, sir. This is the only thing what he has written in the query. I guess okay. Assuming that he has to make the application having a credit balance in the ledger, can he do it or not?
But he's
providing services.
No, the question is refund of unutilized ITC.
Correct, sir.
Which is lying in that ledger. will be granted only to two class of persons.
Okay.
First one is when the zero rated supplies are made without payment of tax against LUT or bond, etc., or the one who are falling into inverted duty structure.
No, sir, I don't think this follows in that. This particular services of photography doesn't fall in either of these two categories.
Yes, that's why he cannot.
Okay. From Sunil Talreja, refund under inverted duty structure for July 17 to March 2018, consolidated on 16th of April 2020. This question is whether the above application period is covered by the notification number 35 of 2020, dated 3rd of April, the due date of which has been extended to 30th of June 2020.
If the due date is extended, then what is the issue? I am not actually not clear. This is not a case that ITC was not shown in a respective return.
No, this is just basically asking whether the refund under the inverted duty structure for that particular period from July to March 18, whether it is covered by this particular notification number 35 of 2020, dated 3rd of April, for which the date is extended to 30th of June.
No, you see, as far as the time limit for making any application is concerned, that section 54(1) says that 2 years from the relevant date.
Correct, sir.
And the relevant date in each and every case of the applicant has been specified in the explanation given after subrule 14, subsection 14. So in this case, if that date is not over or if that date is not extended, then that period has gone. And now
so indirectly, if 2 years have not been not expired,
then in that case, now we'll have to check up elaborately that these cases we were facing under the VAT also, that the time period which was granted for refund application has gone. Now whether under the GST, that I will also to check that whether the making of application for the purpose of refund is a must or not, because most of the time we find the words the application may be made, and the section says that in case of so and so whatever has been mentioned over there, the refund can be granted. Then so long as my assessment is not time barred, then even thereafter if I make an application, why that should not be granted? But here I am not sure, because under the old excise law there was a specific provision that unless the application is filed within the time granted provided under the law, no refund can be granted. But under the VAT law, such provisions were not there. According to me, under GST also that is not there. That's why, but cautiously I'm saying, I may be wrong over here also, whether filing of application within 2 years is a must or not. Otherwise, how we will get that refund? There is no, if there is no provision, but otherwise I am entitled, then all these writ petitions and all those issues will come.
Okay. Sir, this is a long question. Please pay attention to this. Basically, it's from PM Ravindran. The company has shown export of services with payment of IGST under 31A of GSTR 3B, that is column number 31A, I suppose, and GSTR 1 for the month of April 18. As there was some doubt for total IGST amount of rupees 11 lakhs. Now, this company has obtained an advance ruling on the said transaction, and it is determined as export of services. And out of it, IGST to the extent of 5 lakhs in 31B of GSTR 3B of February 19 and 11 lakhs in 31B in GSTR 3B of October 19 respectively. Now, entire GST of 11 lakhs shown in GSTR 1 of February 19. The refund application was filed for the period April to Jan 19 as nil, and for February 19 for 5 lakhs in the month of June 19. The same was rejected, and a rejection letter issued in RDF 06 on 14th of January 2020. As per GST portal, unable to apply fresh application in February 19, as it mentions that application already filed. Now the issues which he has asked, can application be filed in the month of February 19 under another category for 5 lakhs? Second, can application be filed in the month of March 19 for 5 lakhs? And third, can application be filed in the period of March 19 to October 19?
Right. Now, as far as the first sub question is concerned, whether the application which is rejected or say kept on hold can be filed in other category or not. To this,
Right.
my answer is actually speaking no, because these categories have been specified for providing mechanism as well. And for that, the documentation to be attached, what is to be checked, what is not to be checked. For that, there is a provision made under the respective section or rule. And that under Rule 90, whatever the documents are to be supplied and in what form the application has to be made under what category, that has been specified. So only because my application is kept on hold or rejected under category A, that's why I cannot file the application for category B. You have to.
So that means he cannot go under any other category for the 5 lakhs in the month of February 2019.
Because when you are going in another category, say category B, now you want to go, but actually you are entitled for category A. Then what is the purpose behind this? Only for overcoming the hurdle of uploading the application, your purpose will be served. But later on, officer will point out the same things to you.
Correct.
That are not filed under the correct category.
Correct.
And all these, whatever I said earlier, would come into picture.
So his first issue is that he cannot do it for under any other category for 5 lakhs. The second issue, can application be filed in the month of March 2019 for that same amount of 5 lakhs?
Yes, again, as I said, now so long as he is entitled otherwise for claiming this ITC, but but only because certain transactions were falling in say February, but he showed it in another month, etc. Here the question is again, when the law is designed in such a manner that you can show the transaction of any month, any particular period in any other period, if you see the entire process, then in that case, so long as I am showing those transactions in a facility granted during that period, how can you prohibit to me to either to reject that application? How can you reject that application only for the reason that a particular transaction has been shown in a different period? That cannot be done. On the same line as I gave the answer for the earlier one, but every time the rider is this. Otherwise, you must be entitled to claim that refund by law.
Okay.
Assuming the physical application is accepted, then what you will show? You will show the law, means respective section and rules. Under that you are entitled, then you will get that refund, should get that refund.
Okay. The last part is, can the application be filed in the period March 19 to October 19?
As far as the periodicity is concerned, earlier the stand taken was that all those periods clubbed together must fall in one financial year only. But your case is March of this financial year and other periods of next financial year. That is allowed. The subsequent circular which is issued thereafter, that allows the periods to be clubbed, though they are falling in two different periods.
Okay.
Two different financial years.
Yeah. One last query. In case of 100% export of services, can refund of ITC credit be denied if foreign inward remittance certificates are not made available, though the entire amount has actually been received from the client?
No, here, as usual, though it is written because of obviously point of time, one cannot point out. This is in these notes you will find this. Wherever there is a discrepancy in the value shown, or wherever the document is required to be given, as the present query is, that a particular certification you are not in a position to give. If it is not given, now we will have to check up whether that remittance can be established by any other means or not. If the answer is yes, that remittance was received on a particular day and the documents thereof can be submitted now, then that shall be granted. That cannot be different.
Okay. I think these are all the queries. I now hand over the proceedings to Advocate C.L. Banushali for giving a vote of thanks to our learned speaker,
Ajay,
who is the
Ajay, just a minute. There was a
Yeah.
query by Vijay Gangwani. You have taken it. Even I have posted it now. I had sent it to you by WhatsApp. Query on refund in case of 100% export of service.
Can you ask
Yeah,
it
this
again?
only. I have just said that now. In case of 100% export of services, can refund of ITC be denied if foreign inward remittance certificate has not made available, though the entire amount has been received from the client? He just discussed it just now.
Oh. Yeah, please continue.
Yeah.
Before it is handed over to Mr. Vijayji for summing up, I would put in this way. As far as the refund is concerned, we will have to see to the provisions which I say as mischievous under the GST law, just like section 16(4). Therefore, only because the portal denies or the officer is not processing, then in that case, as I said at the cost of repetition, again at the time of summing up, I am saying, in that case, make the proper effort to write to the particular officer concerned, and only where the reading of the section says that it is not possible, then and then only the question of filing writ petition comes, not other. There you are changing the scheme of the act. For example, only one example now due to want of time I will take. Non-payment of the consideration within 180 days to my supplier. That amount of that tax has to be paid as output tax liability. And whenever I pay that consideration to him, that is again to be claimed as ITC. That is totally unjust provision, and that will never succeed if challenged in future in a particular case. That's why we have to look to those provisions very minutely and take a call. But one thing is sure, such provisions which are not rational, a particular assessee in his case only can proceed further, which, as I said, for the want of time, I could not, and I am sorry for that. And at the end, I from my side thank all the viewers, I can say, patient hearing. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Banushali sir, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. On Deepak, on behalf of all the association, I would like to express our gratitude to our speaker, Advocate Deepak Bapat, for sharing his knowledge on GST refund. Deepak sir, once again, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you all. Friends, before ending, a few announcements. Thanks.